Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So welcome back everybody to our daily Gita classes. We're going to be speaking from chapter number 1 entitled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. And today we're going to be discussing text number 27. 127. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur-unmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusuti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so chapter 1, text number 27. Tan samikshya sakanteya sarvan bandhu navastithan kripaya parayavishto vishidan idam abravit. Tan samikshya sakanteya sarvan bandhu navastithan kripaya parayavishto vishidan idam abravit. Tan samikshya sakanteya sarvan bandhun avastithan kripaya parayavishto vishidan idam abravit. Tan samikshya sakanteya sarvan bandhun avastithan kripaya parayavishto vishidan idam abravit. Sarvan Bandhu Namastitan. Tan Samiksha Sakanteya Sarvan Bandhu Namastitan. Tan Samiksha Sakanteya Tan Samiksha Sakanteya Sarvan Bandhu Namastitan. Vishnu Tan Samiksha Sakanteya Sarvan Bandhu Namastitan. Kripaya Paraya Vishnu Vishidanidam Abrave. Okay, word for word translation. Tan, all of them. Samiksha, after seeing. Saha, he. Kantaya, the son of Kunti. Sarvan, all kinds of. Bandhun, relatives. Avastithan, situated. Kripaya, by compassion. Paraya, of a high grade. Avastitha, overwhelmed. Vishidan, while lamenting. Idam, thus. Abravit, spoke. So, translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Okay, so Prabhupada ji has not given us a purport to this shlok, so it makes my job much more difficult to try and explain this. But this is an extremely important shlok. It gives a lot of lessons that we can apply in life just based on this one shloka. So the first thing that I want to explain is that there are three things in life. The three words. And then we'll see how these three words interrelate. Okay? The first word is vision. What comes in our vision? The second is our intention. And the third is our perception. There are three things: vision, intention, and perception. Now, vision is what is there externally. This is what comes into our mind. Intention is what is created in the mind. And what can alter that is our perception. So all these three interrelate. Our vision can change our intention, and it can also change our perception about our intention. Okay? So what do I mean by this? So when we see in the Gita, Arjuna, when he asked Krishna, take my chariot to in the middle of the battlefield, what did he first say? Okay, what are those side of the army full of? They said they are all durbuddhe, that they are all birds of the same feather. He was intent to fight. His intention was there to fight. He knew that the other side was the vicious side. Virtue lies with Yudhishthir, and because Krishna has taken the side of the Pandavas, he was convinced that he is fighting for the right cause. And he just labeled the other side to be all friends of the evil-minded Duryodhan, and so all of them are also evil-minded because they're taking the side of Duryodhan. But when he gets to the middle of the battlefield, and then Krishna jokingly points out, look at everyone, look at all the Kurus assembled here. The word Kuru had already hit Arjuna. And the fact that Krishna had put the chariot right in front of the two people that Arjuna really respected in the other side, between Bhishma and Drona. If he had put the chariot in front of Karna or Dushasana or Shakuni, it would have not caused Arjuna to contemplate that the other side is good. But because he put it in front of Bhishma and Dronacharya, now he is starting to get confused. He's getting illusioned, right? So the order in what things come in our vision, like again, if Krishna had put the chariot in front of any other person apart from Bhishma and Drona, Arjuna would not be confused. But because the first thing he does is he points out that on the other side there's Bhishma and there's Drona. The order, the fact that the first impression creates a lasting impression. This is where we understand this. First impressions create a lasting impression. And so when he sees Bhishma and Dronacharya, that's the first thing that enters his vision. His intention changes. He came with the intention to fight. He came with the intention that we need to slay the Kauravas. But now his intention is getting wavered. Why? Because his perception has changed. His perception has changed. When an external vision changes our perception, how does it change the perception? It changes the impact on how we see or handle a situation, right? And the perception gives rise to emotion. And this is what is highlighted. Emotions are the faculty of the mind, right? It depends on what we are highlighting. Just like when we see something, two people might look at the same event and they might look at it differently because the way they've perceived it is different. It has created different emotions to rise within them, and then they will act differently, right? So this emotion is controlled by the mind. And now we know that in the Bhagavad Gita, later on actually it was Krishna says that the mind can either be your best friend or your greatest enemy. And so the mind, as Keshav Maharaj puts it very nicely as an acronym, the mind stands for MIND. M, it magnifies. I, it invents stories. N, it neglects reality. And D, it distorts reality as well. So there are the four things that the mind does. The mind can magnify the bad things and make something so small into a problem so large, as they say in English, to make a mountain out of a molehill, right? So the mind is so good at doing that. And if you're not very careful, but in minding your mind, it will make it work against our own good. It downplays the usefulness of the situation and it magnifies the points that don't really matter into something that is so big, especially when it comes to a situation where there's an ego is involved. Like when an experience happens, and if something is there which puts you in a bad light, the mind will minimize that, and it will try to expand that, oh, you are in the right. It will justify, it will make you justify all your actions, even if they're all wrong. Okay? So the key takeaway here is that it is important for each of us to take things step by step, moving in a progressive way, guided by our intelligence. See, what has happened is when a vision comes in our consciousness, and if our intelligence is not very strong, it can alter our perception, which alters our intention. So we need to really be very focused and guarding ourselves with intelligence, with a strong intelligence, so that the mind doesn't waver, that the mind remains strongly put in its intention. Right? We can see Arjuna's intention has changed. It's because he just let his mind take over him. Yes, he did not have control over his intelligence at that point. Of course, this is all Krishna's plan. But from this, we can still understand how this can apply to us. Okay? So if we just let the mind take the default control, then what happens is the mind, if it's not a good friend, it will slide us down into illusion, just like how Arjuna slid into illusion. Okay? So now, another point is that because Krishna has put the chariot in front of Bhishma and Dronacharya, these two characters symbolically also represent a very important point. Bhishma Dev represents attachment to material relationships, and Dronacharya represents attachment to material knowledge. Like when we are so attached to material relationships, or we're too attached to our material way of thinking, the logic that we have understood, then just being attached to that, it actually weakens our spiritual intelligence. It weakens our spiritual flow. And we've seen this so many times that some person wants to come into spirituality, he wants to do spirituality, and then he's faced with so many obstacles in the forms of family. They said that, oh, you're getting too much into bhakti, you need to stop. Yeah, we have this fear that if you go too much into spirituality, then you will forsake the family. You will forsake the family. And there's so many instances that one person, like maybe the wife is interested, and then the husband gets irritated by the fact that the wife is getting into spirituality, or the other way around, that the husband is getting into spirituality, and then the wife gets sidetracked, and she feels like that the spirituality is causing uh, distance, and there's a lot of emotional blackmail that happens. If a son wants to get into it, the parents, they uh, try to dissuade him from going into spirituality. But this is all because there is a lack of understanding about the true principles of spirituality. Nowhere in the Gita has Krishna ever told Arjuna to forsake his duties in life. He has got two duties. We'll see that in the second chapter. He's got his Swadharma and he's got his Sanatan Dharma. Spirituality is meant to be a balancing act between doing both your duties perfectly, and then by progressive living under a spiritual regime, you are able to do both your material duties perfectly and also do your spiritual duties. And the perfect and the perfection is when you're able to merge both of them together. It doesn't mean that you become irresponsible. Spiritual life doesn't make you irresponsible, it makes you extra responsible, because you realize that your entire vision has changed. You look at your family in a completely different light. You look at it that, oh, these are parts and parcels of Krishna. I need to do my duty to make sure that I am becoming of help in their spiritual journey. We don't look at them in a sense of attachment. It is this attachment which weakens us. It's not detachment that weakens us. It's attachment that weakens us. Just look at what happened with Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was like, oh, my sons, my sons, my sons. And because of his attachment to my sons and everything should happen for my benefit, for my son's benefit, how many atrocities did he passively agree to? How many different schemes of Duryodhana and Shakuni did he just give his silent blessings and sometimes not so silent? He became a culprit to so many heinous acts committed by the Kauravas towards the Pandavas, all because of attachment. So it is attachment that creates weakness, not detachment, as many people think. Okay? So whenever we are faced with our material attachments, it makes us weak to spiritual enlightenment and dilutes our spiritual progress. So there are three different ways. Even in chapter 1, if we look at it, that in other Gitas, the title of chapter 1 has been given as two different ones. One is called Saina Niriksha Yoga, and the other one is given as Arjuna Vishad Yoga. So this text is where it transitions from Sainak Niriksha Yoga, means from what has happened from 1.1 to now, is that Sanjaya is giving an account to Dhritarashtra of what was the vision of the Sena from the point of view of Duryodhan, and then what is the viewpoint of the Sena from the viewpoint of Arjuna. So the first part of chapter 1, which is until now, is Sena Niriksha Yoga. And now we come to Arjuna Vishad Yoga. Now from here, 1.27 till the end of the chapter, we are going to look at all the different excuses and points that Arjuna gives before he spirals down into complete bewilderment. Okay? So when we see how Duryodhana described the Pandava army, he knew that the other side is full of his relatives, but not once did he mention that on the other side are my relatives. He mentioned Bhima, but he mentioned him in the sense that he's a competent warrior. He mentioned Arjuna in the sense that he's a competent warrior. He did not say that they are my brothers. On the other side, Arjuna, his entire perception is changed. First he thought that these are all evil-minded, and now he's thinking all of them as bandhuhu, as it says in this text, bandhun. Bandhun meaning relatives. He's not looking at them as enemies anymore. He's looking at them as relatives, as well-wishers. And we see in the previous, he sees so many grades of relatives, grandfather all the way to grandson, mamas, matulan, then sasur. All of these are different grades of relatives that he is describing, that he can see there. So now the question comes: is Arjuna is moved by compassion? He says in the word here, kripaya. Now, kripaya means compassion. And compassion is what compels one to show kripa. So, kripa comes from the word kripaya. Kripaya is a state. And from that state, you're able to give kripa or mercy. So, only when you're compassionate is when you can be merciful. So from the point that Arjuna became Kripaya, he came into a compassionate state. And from that compassionate state, he was able to show Kripa. For example, sometimes when we are going on the road and we see an extremely destitute a very a very sorry case of a beggar on the street. He might not have any hands, might not have any legs, doesn't have any clothes, and he looks like a skeleton. Just the sight of such a beggar, it makes us become compassionate and makes us want to extend that compassionate in action, which is mercy, by giving him something. So mercy can only flow when there is compassion. But now this question is this compassion misplaced? Is Arjuna's compassion towards his relatives misplaced or not? And this is a very, very important point that we need to address. Because many people bring up this point when they criticize the Gita. They say that when just reading the first chapter, I look at the first chapter and I side with Arjuna. I agree everything with what Arjuna has said, and I don't agree with anything Krishna says, and then I live the Gita and say that this is a book that promotes violence. Because Krishna is saying you fight, right, fight, and Arjuna is saying is I don't want to fight, I don't want to fight, I don't want to fight. So this is because they are not going beyond. They are not seeing the beauty of the Gita. So this compassion is definitely misplaced. And somebody might ask, well, how is killing considered compassionate? How is killing considered compassionate? Now, for this, there is a story that if you have a relative that is an alcoholic, and every time he has an episode where he is overindulged in alcohol, and you take him to the the rehab center, and he relapses. He comes out, he relapses, and you say it's okay, and you clean up his mess, and then again he does another big episode where he comes drunk and he does a lot of things. You again send him to the rehab. Again he relapses, and you bring him back home and you said, oh, it's okay. No, let me clean up your mess. Do you think you're actually helping that person? No, you're not. Because you're not giving him an incentive to improve. By overprotecting, by overshielding a person from their consequences, it's actually doing them a disservice. And all this time, Yudhishthir Maharaj and the Pandavas have kept on forgiving, the Pandavas, the Kauravas, for all the atrocities that they performed. But then there is a limit. As it says in English, there's a proverb: spare the rod and spoil the child. So this is a point that compassion, when at the last thing, when there is no hope for improvement, then the best form of compassion is to kill that person so that he doesn't keep on committing more and more bad reactions for himself. That is why in the previous ages there used to be capital punishment. For what reason? It was so that the amount of karma, bad karma that this person has accumulated doing bad activities in his life, it gets finished because of capital punishment. The king was supposed to utilize this punishment as a last resort, to make sure that he tries everything possible to uh, to correct the individual. But if nothing works, then the last resort is punishment, capital punishment. Okay? So Arjuna's compassionate nature is not actually wrong in essence, but it has become an obstacle for him to drift away from his highest duty, which is towards Krishna, which is at the level of paradharma. So there are 3 points here. There is adharma, there is aparadharma, and then there is paradharma. Adharma, okay, so we know dharma means duty, or there's so many meanings to it. And the Sanskrit prefix a means a negation. So adharma means completely irreligious person. On the other hand, there is something known as para dharma. Now the word para in Sanskrit means complete, just like we have the word parikrama. So the word parikrama, the word pari comes from the word para, which means a complete circle, or it is everything contained in it. Just like in English we have the word parameter. So the word parameter means to go the full length around the object. That's the parameter. So it's the same thing, the word para means complete. And complete what? Dharma. So complete dharma. Even in the Bhagavatam it says that the highest dharma is that which is leading you to love of God and to do God's order. So that is complete. And apara, again, a means negation, para means full. So apara means not complete. So this means it is only looking at one aspect, which is only on the material level. So you have three levels: adharma meaning irreligion, then aparadharma meaning only material religiousness, and then this paradharma meaning spiritual minded religion. So you have three levels, and Duryodhan is at the level of adharma. That you understand. Now the question is Arjuna at the level of aparadharma right now, or is he at the level of paradharma? He is at the level of aparadharma, because he is only looking at it from his point of view, from a materialistic point of view. It is still better than Duryodhan. So now Duryodhan is not looking at bodily attraction. He is not looking at bodily attachment. So why is he not looking? Because he is full of greed. He is full of envy. So that is on the level of adharma. But Arjuna, he is looking at it from a very bodily level, because he is concerned. He is torn between two duties. He is torn between doing his kula dharma, meaning to protect his family, and kshatriya dharma. He's torn between these two. What should I do? Should I do my kula dharma, meaning that I need to protect my family, or do I need to do my kshatriya dharma, meaning to have to kill my aggressors? So the dilemma is that now the own family members have become the aggressors, and this is ripping Arjuna from within. And you can see that because he is covered by this dilemma so much, that now he's overcome with lamentation. The words here are that he's overcome with lamentation and compassion, right? So the point is that the whole Gita was spoken so that it raises us from the level of aparadharma, from doing material religiosity, to do paradharma, to do the transcendental, the true purpose of religion. And that is why Krishna says in 1866, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. It's very confusing for a person who reads it, because Krishna is meant to be the father of dharma. He says in the fourth chapter that yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya adharmasya. He comes to rid the world of irreligion and to establish religion, dharma. So if in 4.7 he's saying that he comes to establish religion, dharma, then why in 1866 this Krishna says Sarva Dharma Parityaja? Why does he say that? It is because in 4.7 he's talking about aparadharma. He's talking about coming to create a system, to protect a system of material religiosity, so that people can progressively go towards spiritual perfection. And spiritual perfection happens when you become fully into paradharma. And at that time, when Krishna says sarva dharma parityaja, meaning give up all these lower types of religion that I've talked about, Forget about, okay, adharma is definitely out of the question, but also forget about aparadharma. The highest dharma is paradharma. It means you follow my instructions. So the Gita is trying to guide us towards this point of always going towards doing our paradharma. He is doing that for Arjuna and he is doing it for us. And Prabhupada ji, as a devotee of Krishna, although Krishna has said this at the end of the Gita, Prabhupada ji is even more compassionate than Krishna himself. He makes that last point appear at every single page of the Gita so that we, as dull minded people in this age of Kali Yuga, because it is said in the Bhagavatam that the people of Kali Yuga are so dull minded, they are so weak, they are so lazy that they are not going to be able to understand the final conclusion. And so, Prabhupada ji, as being the most compassionate person, he has emphasized on the final point in every single shlok, in every single verse of the Gita. He is trying to highlight the last instruction of Krishna. And then people say that, oh, Prabhupada's Gita is too much heavily focused on bhakti. It is not a true representation. No, it is a perfect representation. It is just that Prabhupada ji has just magnified the most important point and put it every place so that people are always reminded of the fact of what is the final goal. People don't get caught up in the technicalities of the different stages. He just put the end goal. It's just like you go up a ladder. It's not that you go one step and you feel like you reach the destination. The purpose of the ladder is you get to the top place. That is what the ladder is meant for, to help you reach the highest place. If you stop at an intermediary step, what's the point? You're not yet finished in your spiritual evolution, spiritual journey. So, in that sense, this shlok is a dividing line. We have seen already in the previous to this, it's all about looking at observing the armies. Now we are going to look at what is the points that Arjuna raises. And mind you, these are very, very good points. This point of compassion, it's such a strong point. But if you don't understand that this compassion is misplaced in the light of the knowledge of the Gita, then you will not be able to understand anything further than this. Yeah, so we need to first take in all the information and then we will see how Arjuna's points that he brings up to refute that or gives as justification for not fighting the war actually doesn't make any sense. Yeah, especially when we get to maybe the later chapters of the Gita, we will see that this point of mode of like being compassionate, Arjuna is is a compassionate person, and compassion is naturally a quality of a person who is of divine nature, who is a person who is situated in the mode of goodness. And actually, Krishna says that even if a person is in the mode of goodness, he is still bound, and this is where it shows Arjuna, although right now in the mode of goodness, he is still making arguments which are binding him. And as we go forward in his arguments, we'll see how it moves from passion, from goodness to passion to complete ignorance. Okay, so let's stop here. So if anyone has any comments, any questions, please. Otherwise, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
You said about compassion. His compassion was right. Okay, there are also some Muslim kings who attacked India in the past, and some Indian kings, they even beaten them, but then out of compassion, they have not jail them, or they release them.
Hmm.
Later they again attack India twice, thrice, and somewhere they become the king. Okay. And then how they infiltrated India or they conquered India or something. So that comparison was also wrong.
So again, in the past as well, there was still this culture of moral codes that our that India was very famous for following, like the codes of Kshatriya Dharma, and in that it says that when a person surrenders to you, then you're not supposed to kill him. You're supposed to give him protection, and this is what the Mughals did. Even after they were defeated by the Rajputs or the Marathas, eh, because they were followers of Vedic Dharma and followers of Kshatriya Dharma, and also the Mughals knew about this. So they say that if you lose, just surrender. They are, according to their laws, law books, you're not going to be killed. You're going to be spared. But then again, they basically took advantage of it, and then the kings were also blind by this. There were some certain kings who made an exemption, like I think Prithviraj Chauhan. Um he did not forgive, and he was killing them. So it the the waves of history have already flown, and you can make an argument that the past kings were following the book too much, and they were too trusting as well. So this is now history. History has done its part, uh, and hopefully it doesn't repeat in the future, because it's very important to understand that you cannot, when people used to surrender in the past, then they will not attack again. They will not attack again. But look at the Mughal Raj. They kept on coming back. So if they keep on coming back, then you cannot keep on surrendering and keep on excusing them. You just need to then. But then again, it was a misapplication of Shastra. Maybe we don't know. We can't say. It's up to. I would leave that question to people who are more accomplished and more authoritative on this matter than I am. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.